I'll tell you straight up right now, we're going to do another episode because there's no way. There's no way. I mean, come on. Good. Hi, I'm Topaz Adizes, and I'm the founder of the Emmy Award-winning series, The End. The End has been an incredible journey for the past 12 years. We've brought in over 1,250 pairs to have incredible conversations. Through this work, I've had the privilege of witnessing the bold and the beautiful and the heart-wrenching, the conversations that reveal us. And what I've learned through these incredible experiences is that life shapes us. Now I'm ready to share these learnings and reflections here with you to dive deeper. We're going to be speaking to people I find incredible. I'm going to be asking them questions that reveal their life's journey. In today's episode, I'll be speaking to Airrion Copeland, who is a filmmaker, writer, and nonprofit leader whose work bridges storytelling, health, and ecology. He serves as executive director of IE, executive producer of the Telepathy Tapes and Medicinal Media, and sits on the boards of the Surfrider Foundation and Save the Redwoods League. Most importantly, he's an incredible father and husband, and simply just a beautiful soul. Thank you for joining me on this journey that we're calling Getting Under the Skin, or GUTS for short. Welcome, and let's see where we go. So, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Basically, the thesis I have that I'm pursuing is that this thesis that life shapes us. There's a dance between us and life.
Yes.
And just like a river flows through a canyon, it shapes the river, and we are that river, but it's like our own texture, our own personalities, or who knows what it is, with life. And so the thesis is that basically like life is the greatest technology of all. And it has its synchronicities and it has its lessons, right? And
yes.
And I'm kind of looking through this conversation through a quote. The purpose of life is to find your gift. And the work of life is to develop your gift. And the meaning of life is to give it away.
I've heard that quote many times, and it always grabbed me. And so I love that you're using that as the frame because, you know, if you look at nature and all the different elements of expression of being, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, there is a sense of giving away a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something so profound and beautiful about that on a collective level, and I love that you're using that as a framework. And secondly, you know, this is the time more than ever to have these deep conversations that, you know, and I'm sure will impact a lot of this, but like, you know, a lot of people are just working on the surface. So it's beautiful that you're willing to dive deep and, you know, beneath at the depths of like these conversations, these oceans of, you know, connections, there's so much profound insights that I think are so needed now that we have to kind of start to bring this to the surface.
Like first check-in is like, how's your son doing? How's your wife doing?
Thank you.
How are you doing?
We're doing wonderful. My son's name is Miles. And yeah, that was probably one of the most scariest moments of my time in life, but even more so as a parent, obviously. It was a complementary journey of being terrified, being as afraid as you can only imagine, and discovering the most profound wisdom. There was an eclipse of both of those things at the same time. And it actually allowed me to kind of look at myself through my son's eyes in a way that I've never been able to do so. And his courage, his ability to be vulnerable and honest and to rediscover breath, rediscover his own awareness was just so profound to me. So we found so much interesting dynamics in that moment. And from that moment to now, it's been a combination of wonderful relief, a new sort of perspective on life, as you can imagine, and like, you know, a deeper compassion for humanity. And I think that's the real core of it, deeper compassion. I'll tell you why that really struck me the most is because um, the in the hospital, in the emergency room, in the ICU,
You were
the
there how many nights? 4 nights?
4 nights, 5 days. And the most interesting part for me was not just what was happening in our room. It was what was happening in all of the rooms. I heard mothers screaming. I heard pain of children. I heard death next door. Um, so that extends beyond the walls of the hospital room through the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And it's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
So there's a profound insight into the nature of suffering and why it's so critical to bring forth compassion for those who suffer and for your own suffering. So, but thank you.
I mean,
Yes, Paul, doing
I
well.
mean, no, but I think, that's my biggest fear. And one of the things that's probably the biggest thing that struck me when I became a father was fucking how the fuck does the world operate? How are people like, I'm in a Western society. I don't have bombs falling on my head. I'm not facing starvation or like violence directly in the street. Like, how is the world operating when your heart is running around in the body of a 3-year-old kid, 4-year-old
Yes.
kid, 5-year-old kid, 15-year-old, whatever it is, and they're put in harm's way? I don't know. It gave me a greater sense of fear because I can't control it. It's like if a bullet comes from me, it's one thing, but if it comes from my kid, it's scarier. For me, that's one of the biggest fears I have.
Mm.
What's different about you since then?
I think what's different is the the understanding. In life, you're going through your rhythm, right? Your daily life, the habits. Get up in the morning, you do your breakfast, you do your job, you have your breaks, you have your laughs, you come home, you might have a happy hour moment, you might watch the game, you might make love. It's this rhythm, right? And you get
Mm-hmm.
caught in that sort of content of experience. And it's visceral, it's emotional. You start to believe the story of that rhythm on a regular basis until life shows up and says, just a second, you're not in control. And you start to be like, oh, wait, cancer and heart disease and car accidents. And,
Mm-hmm.
you can drop dead at any second in any rhythm that you're in. And that's a wake up call, whether you survive or not.
Mm-hmm.
So the new level of understanding for myself is waking up and understanding that anything can happen at any time. And the beauty of that, because what that does is it creates a sense of urgency for the here and now and appreciating the beauty and the gifts that you have just with basic living and the ability not only for yourself, because there is no self really, but there's an energy to give and help others. And I think that is the sort of connectivity or the interconnectivity that when when you're in a situation where a loved one, especially your dearest, as your kids usually are at a moment where it's life or death, it wakes you up to understand that the urgency of love, the urgency of presence, the urgency of compassion is now, is now. There is no other. There's no escape. There's no escape.
We're living in our story about what is life, what is power, what is love, who am I, what do I do, right? You know, and
Hmm.
then boom, you get hit by a car, you get cancer, you meet the love of your life, something happens, and your
Yes.
story breaks, and you create a new story, and it's akin to the Leonard Cohen quote that you love,
Yes.
that it's got to break for the light to come in.
Yes. The way I sort of set the example of life is that, it's like walking into a movie theater, right? You're excited to see this film. You're like, oh my God, I can't wait. The previews look amazing, right? And then you are trying to find your seat in the theater. And if you sit in the front row and you see the movie begin and you're like, wow, this is intense. It almost feels like you're in the movie. It's almost too stimulating because you're in the front row, right? But if you go to the back row, you're almost too distant where you actually can really feel it. You get to see sort of the technical aspects of this is a movie
Mm-hmm.
and you don't get to feel it. But life is sitting in the middle seat somewhere in that range where you're close enough to really feel it and understand it as an emotional story. But also, you understand at the end of the day, it's just a movie. So I think the goal is to understand the fleeting nature of things, the impermanence of things, birth, aging, sickness, death. And you are part of that. There's no dualism here. You're in this process. And in that process, to your earlier point with that quote of you share your gifts, you take care of your family, you take care of others, and you spread goodness in the world and let the energy of the universe do the rest of the work and surrender to that. That's a hard thing to do in
Yeah.
concept, but I think the practices of these experiences that you get on a very relative level, because it's unique to everyone, but it's similar. Um, be open to the wakefulness that comes out of these things because it does shape you like the river that you mentioned.
These things meaning those moments of like catharsis or the moments of
Yes.
cracking and the moments of
Yes.
breaking, which are, yeah.
They
So
all will show up. They all will
there,
show. That's
I mean,
inevitable.
I was talking to my wife today and I just, I learned from one of my mentors that the understanding that, and, then it makes sense, but for me, but it was like, what I took from that was like, if I don't crack it myself, if I don't push myself in some deeper exploration, whether it's a 10-day silent retreat or it's an ayahuasca journey
Hmm.
or it's a deep talk with a therapist or my partner, like if I don't go and push that, then life will. Like
Hmm.
life will send something to crack you open. The more you can crack yourself open so that you're in the practice of kind of being involved, but also, you know, have the distance to know that this is just an experience,
Hmm.
then the more kind of resilient, the more flexible you could be to handle whatever life throws your way. So
Yes,
it's not so
absolutely.
surprising.
Absolutely. I think that's again, the middle seat sort of analogy is that
Mm-hmm.
you don't have control over most things. And I think that first insight when you start to understand that, and you can just tap into your breath and realize that this is just happening. There's nothing you can do. It's like that is the nature of what you were given. You wake up at some point early on as a baby and be like, I'm here. There's some awareness. You snap into this presence and you're like, I don't know what's going on here. I have all of these cravings. I have all of these dependencies. But as you start to evolve through your life and adulthood, you understand that you also have some autonomy to
Mm-hmm.
shape that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like your gene pool, you can't really change, although that might be shifting in the future
Right.
that we're living. Who knows? But there is this element of like a balance between what you can and can't do. So you have the goal is always the middle path. And it's hard. It's hard to do because the craving to succeed, especially in the Western culture,
Yeah.
is like, no, you got to go hard. You got to hustle. You got to do this. And you have to pay the price for that, you know? So
Dude,
I think there's balance.
and when I was in my early 20s, I was, hustling the streets of New York making
Yeah.
films, camera, just
Yes.
trying to get anything. And I end up doing this project with this artist, Soul Sax, just this beautiful man, dreads, just like super cool. And I remember him sitting on my couch going, Topaz, I'm like I'm like nature. I'm like the river that flows down. I just find the easiest path. But in
Yes.
the research that I found two interesting things. You're working in a coffee shop. Some guy comes in to do a post about surfing, gives you the first lesson of surfing,
Hmm.
and you love it. So
Yes.
then that leads to surfing.
Yes.
Then you're working in a gym somewhere, and right there on Bay Street or Main Street in Santa Monica, and
Yeah, taking a Santa Monica.
you're about to go. and then this cat stops you and goes, "Where are you going? You're surfing. You're a black man. What's that about?" You have a 3 hour convo with him. He says, "I'll only make this movie if you produce it."
Yes.
You hadn't produced anything before. And if those are the two inclinations or the two moments that have led, one is just like never thought about surfing and just said yes to an opportunity, to an offering, and then you're surfing, which then knows what left to, hey, enter films. I've never,
Yes.
sure. I mean, you're offering value in the world through your work. You're changing conversations. Tell me about that. Like, how did life lead you to the things, and what was your engagement with life that got you to what was the mix?
I think it's a combination package of the effort and the effortless.
Mm.
Uh, in that process of hustle, like you, I had that same sort of energy. I grew up in upstate New York in Cleveland, Ohio, and my dad worked his ass off to become a physician and reach the top of his career. And I watched how hard he worked in his study and it was incredible. So I had that natural work ethic to figure that out on my own. But I early on had tremendous, and I still do to this day, I turned 50 this year, tremendous what's called coincidences, which I don't think they're coincidences. I think there is just this serendipity of openness and consciousness sort of breathing through you. And I sort of always said yes to that. I never said no. Or if I did say no or I was hesitant, there would be conflict or suffering of however that path was going to shape me per se.
So that's why you said no.
That's
Is
why
that
no, that's why I
that's
say yes to everything, because I say yes to everything because if I don't do that, if I say no, that will usually lead to suffering because I think intuitively when the universe speaks, you have to listen,
mm,
even within your effort, so you could be going down one path and you're like, man, I got it, and as soon as that state of mind comes in, like, I got it, that's when the universe shows up and says, are you sure?
okay.
And you have to flow with that. It's like, be open to that shift and change and go where the universe takes you. And people say, well, what does that mean, the universe or whatever? There is an inkling of awareness, the depth of awareness that has complete spontaneous sort of jazz music that is speaking to you. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows this. And you have to listen to that jazz music and let it take you into the direction it needs to. So when I say yes to everything, is a sense of more about openness, being
Uh-huh.
open to the possibilities within the situation that you're in. But here's the kicker, you're not in control of the results. That's the thing. So you say yes to everything, knowing that the result might be no. Do you
Uh-huh.
understand? So like you say yes, like, oh, there's an opportunity here. Great. Let me be open to that. But it may not turn out where you get to control how that result shapes for your life. But the openness is the key. This infinite field of awareness is sort of connected to you in that, hey, I'm not, let it be free. It's kind of, I love jazz, so you'll hear a lot of jazz references here, but it's like free jazz. It's like what Coltrane played, or it's like what Pharoah Sanders played, or it's just like what Miles played. It's just like, be open on stage, even though we planned to play this song this way, let's turn around and play it another way.
Mm. So
And you listen to that process, you'll be surprised. Life surprises you with the beauty of those notes. And I think that's what happens is like you can be plan. I mean, I think the greatest quote, and I have John Lennon in my background, is, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. So let life dictate life and you
w-
flow with that.
that's why I have tattooed like life is the master teacher.
Yes,
Like for
100%.
me.
For me, yes, I'm a storyteller. Yes, I'm a seeker. Yes, I'm free thinker and person who does film and all these things and nonprofit. And I'm the executive director of Intersectional Environmentalists right now, which is an incredible organization focused on eco media for all, for environmental justice, which is really beautiful. But I've shared a lot of these different, sort of career paths that all intersect to learn how to your point, create value. Value is the mantra of existence. How do we create value? Value creation, And I think part of that is this sort of commitment to discovering those moments when you are efforting, when the effortless also is the wind beneath all of that, the
Mm-hmm.
wings. And the beauty of it is that you need the resistance. The suffering is 100% necessary. So when you ask me about my son now,
Mm.
I look at the beauty of that moment because if it didn't happen, the wake up would not have happened as
Mm.
well. In a way, I feel like part of this whole experience, this existence that we have, in my opinion, and I'm still discovering this, is sort of this process of remembering who we really are.
Yeah.
And the suffering wakes you up to that. It's this sort of snaps you into this, oh, I remember. I remember my own inner peace that's connected to the same piece of consciousness across the globe. Same happiness, same love, same beauty,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, one thing that comes up for me is that the only thing we have control over is how present we're being to the moment. And how am I showing up? And showing up means like how present am I being to the moment and what am I offering in that moment that I can?
But if I asked you,
Yeah, please.
like, point here to the present moment, what is that?
It's sand flipping through the fingers just as I speak. Every breath is just,
Yeah, right? It's like, but as soon as you sort of capture that, like, it's gone.
it's right here. It's right here.
Perfect metaphor of life, that little example, right there.
It's
It's
like,
like, yeah, I know. I know. It's funny. I mean, I started in the mid 90s of Zen Buddhism. I practiced mindfulness meditation for 30 years. I practiced transcendental meditation, still practice. I've done yoga for 30 plus years. Done it all. What matters is what was in that hospital room
mm,
with my son.
whew.
All of those practices, all of those things, in a nutshell, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the realization.
Mm-hmm.
It means you should do them, but the
Mm-hmm.
insight is that they don't work. And the
Mm.
beauty of them not working is when you really wake up.
Mm. Wow.
It's finding the beauty in what's not working. That's what Leonard Cohen is saying is that, you know, there's a crack in everything.
Wow.
That's how the light gets in.
Wow.
So that's what you want to
Wow.
discover is the cracks, the beauty in the cracks, the beauty in the broken, the beauty in the uncertainty. Like everyone's talking about AI and all it, just find the beauty in the brokenness.
You just took my skin and flipped it over. You just flipped it in and out. But okay, so I'm just gonna go with the first question that comes up. Okay, if that doesn't work, then what does work?
Um, I think part of the process of discovery, the process of insight is understanding, understanding of this existence, this realm that we're in. We don't know what's beyond this. There's ideas, there's stories beyond death. We don't know what was before us, even when we were born. But in this existence, there are some commonalities here. And I will reference one of my great heroes and sort of teachers, Rupert Spira, who is a non-dual sort of teacher in the spiritual space. And he says that happiness is the nature of our being, and we share our being with everyone and everything. I'll say that one more time. Happiness is the nature of our being, and we share our being with everyone and everything. Okay. So the path, what works is understanding the nature of your being so you can share it with everyone and everything. And the elements of that show up in on the outside, meaning with your senses projecting all of these different mirrors of the physical world, all the way through space, even shows up in love and beauty. And inside, it shows up as peace and happiness.
Beautiful. Love it. Tell me, tell me about an experience that taught you that, because I'm with you. I love it. These are words, but like, ground it for me. Like, tell me
Yeah.
about the version of you before you had the first inkling of that understanding. Like, give me a few touch points in the journey of your life that
Mm.
started giving you that understanding, experientially.
I think at an early age, for me, growing up, when I was in Syracuse, New York, my dad was in his residency as a physician, and it was not a favorable environment. This was a very challenged area. There was a lot of, some projects and some darker energy in that space at that time. For me, though, I've had some really deep trauma right from the get-go, and then I was robbed, or my brother and I were in our car. My mom went to the grocery store, got a loaf of bread. While she was gone, this guy came in and stole her wallet and in our car, and we were
You,
5, 6 years old.
oh my.
I don't I don't know. I don't remember anything before that. So this is the first base for me,
Hmm. Hmm.
trying to understand what just happened. So that for me was deep trauma.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was just incredible in terms of like how to put us in a position of like safety and understanding. And so I'm like, what did I just enter? What did I do? That
Mm.
this is why I have to, and there's that thread. I mean, I've been bullied. I've been, you know, went through so many different dark experiences early on
Mm-hmm.
that I was just like, there has to be more. Or if there is, I want to discover what is more beyond the suffering. So that sort of sparked the spiritual seeking journey for me of like what else is out there. So I
Mm-hmm.
explored, and the areas that I explored were in the East. So through studying the teachings of yoga, studying the teachings of Buddhism, I started to understand for me, a better understanding is that the root of this was that consciousness is all there is. When I started to understand that intellectually, meaning I can absorb that became my body and mind, in that now when those situations come up, I have better clarity practically day to day how to manage my existence. And that's a practice. That's why it's not like you're just like, oh, okay, I got it, and you move. No, it's a constant practice. My partner, my wife, she's a Nichiren Buddhist. She chants Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and I love what this has done for her. It's an incredible practice. But the essence of it, what's so beautiful about the modernization of this Buddhist practice is outside of just the diversity of people that it has compared to a lot of other practices that I've seen out there, it's all about daily life. How do I
Mm-hmm.
deal with daily life? And I love practicing with her because you really get to frame that daily
Mm-hmm.
life picture in a way that is like, I can get through this. I can get through this. It's bringing forth all of that energy so that you can have the courage to be vulnerable with yourself and others, to face reality as it is, to pay the bills, to
Yeah.
take care of your kids. That's what matters because that's what's in front of you. The other stuff you can go into fucking so many different places with it. But honestly, it's your two kids. It's your two kids, man.
I want to hear an embodied experience about a choice you made when you said yes. Like, if I look at the beautiful soul that's in front of me now and this path that you've lived, tell me about one or two intersections of where you chose, and why did you? How was it that you went down that path,
Mm.
and why do you think you went down that path? Give me an example of, like, what was the first step on that journey? Be more conscientious.
It starts with the trauma.
Okay.
For me, the when I got bullied in Missouri, I was bullied severely by a white kid who basically didn't like the color of my skin. And so as we would play like games, I was playing football a lot. He would just not only tackle me, but just beat me, and I didn't know how to fight back at the time. And that went on continually week to week because he was in the same school as me. And I didn't know how to defend myself. But my mother, outside of just confronting that kid at the time directly, because my mother don't play. She's straight up hood, and she's an incredible human being. But she was just like, you got to learn how to do this on your own. And so she got me involved with martial arts. And martial arts was the beginning of how I was able to understand discipline, how to defend myself, how to be courageous, and the concept of yin and yang, which is a Taoist sort of philosophical symbol of balance. Was the first Eastern sort of symbol that I was drawn to. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, Bruce Lee was so big with his films. So
Mm.
I just started studying the
How old
East.
were you at this point?
This was like 6, 7, up until like 12 or 13, where I was really deep into martial arts. So that
Mm-hmm.
gave me the sort of impetus to say, this is how you face these sort of
Mm.
challenges. And that opened up a whole new path of awareness about how to deal with the problems of the world or the bullies of the world. Secondly, I will say, as I was sort of navigating my high school life, um, I got really deep into theater. We had like a theater program in high school. And I think, and this was in retrospect, I mean, I didn't know this at the time, but part of the issue was like I was trying to find my identity. I knew how difficult it was for a black man in this country. I
You
knew
went
how
to school. Where'd you go to high school? Where was it?
Cleveland, Cleveland
Cleveland.
Heights,
Okay, we're in Ohio.
Cleveland Heights. And I knew how difficult it was. And I was like, I need to discover myself. And as a teenager, you're going through obviously a big hormonal sort of, fuckery, if you will. And I like the idea of like learning from other characters in story. So
Mm.
that's when I started to discover story. And I ended up winning a dramatic interpretation of Malcolm X, the state championship. Um, and I ended up really getting deep into theater. And I did my first play at the time. And then I got a scholarship to Wright State University in Dayton, Fairborn, Ohio. And that's how I kind of moved into theater and learned about story. So story came from that. And I was like, wow, this is amazing, how this kind, and then you started to study the depths of theater with, acting and Stanislavski and, all the different methods, and you understand character development. I learned all of this in college. And then I moved to Chicago and just learned to do it directly, like go out there and audition. And so even that hustle of trying to get a role, the hustle of
Wow.
getting into a play. And I did a lot of work at, some incredible theaters in downtown Chicago, Steppenwolf, Goodman Theater. It was amazing to participate in that process. And I was like, I was sold, like, this is what I wanted to do. But it got to a point where I was just like, okay, well, how can I make a living doing this? And so there's the practical aspects of, a starving artist kind of life, or did you want to do something different? And so I was kind of dancing with that for a while. And out of that sort of process, I was very interested in like, what does this all mean? What is life about? It's just like that contemplative in your 20s, like what are you doing? And so that's
Yeah.
when I started to study all of the Eastern stuff. All of the stuff kind of emerged into, learning about Zen Buddhism, which was really powerful. I got an undergraduate degree in transpersonal psychology, which is really the study of consciousness through a lot of, Jungian psychology, Ken Wilber psychology, humanism, all of that started to come to light. And I found so much beauty in those spaces. But really, Topaz, I'm seeking, I'm trying to find, what is this about? What is this about? What is this about? And so that took me in a broad way. And when I started learning about the filmmaking piece came in because of that situation with whitewash and all of that. But it really was a recall to the earlier days of, hey, I love story. Story is what shapes humanity over the years, not
Mm.
just facts.
No,
It
no,
was
no.
the
Facts
story.
are gone. I mean,
Facts
facts
are
are
gone.
gone now.
No, it's all, it
Like,
doesn't, it's more about story. And as a filmmaker and as a podcast host and the stuff you've done with the Skin Deep and, I mean, it's like story is really what moves humanity and what gives us the sort of false power
mm,
over other
hmm,
species, which should not be the case.
right.
Yeah.
What, so was there a bridge between, when you started Whitewash as a producer
Hmm.
and like being at, like in Chicago, what led you to LA? What happened that
Yes.
took you out there?
That's a
And
great question.
how did synchronicity play a part of that?
Yeah. So when I was in Chicago and after studying and practicing Zen through that time, and my sort of interest and aspirations to try to figure out what I want to do as a career, I was just working in coffee shops and bookstores primarily through my 20s. It was amazing. I thought there was so much beauty in just coffee. I I was
Tell me,
like,
what do you mean? What do you mean? There's in
yes,
beauty in books or just or talking?
no,
Tell me, what did you
that
see?
to this day, if I had my druthers, I would just work in a coffee shop.
What's
And I'll tell
druthers? I'm getting. What does that mean?
you, just if I had my complete autonomy,
Uh-huh.
I would just work in a coffee shop. And I'll tell you why. The beauty of a coffee shop is that you have this incredible, simple beverage, which is just beans and water compressed in a gazillion different ways to create an experience. And it's those beans come from all over the world. You get to taste the entire world in one cup, right? And you get to share that cup with other individuals and you're serving them. So remember when I was just talking about happiness is the nature of our being and we share our
Mm-hmm.
being with everyone? That happens in a coffee shop. And it's really simple and beautiful. And it also gives that individual something simple, practical, and alive that they can go on with their day to day and have some energy. And I love that in my 20s is that. And even the conversations you have, the regulars that would come in and you would know what they want and they would tell you their problems and you would just listen and you would laugh. It was a little brightness of their day and you would give them a cup of coffee and they would come back tomorrow. It's a little monastery. It's a beautiful thing. And there's culture and sometimes there's music and me even learning about Zen, what Zen is came literally out of a coffee shop because when I was in Chicago, Phil Jackson was considered the Zen master of
Uh-huh.
the Chicago
Uh-huh.
Bulls and we were watching the game and I remember
Right.
asking the whole barista, I said, what is this Zen thing that everyone's talking about? And he's like, oh, it's kind of like a state of being. I remember his name to this day. It was Patrick. And I was just like, wow, I kind of want some of that. I kind of want some of that state of being, dude. And then
Where
he said,
You're like, where could I buy that? He's like, you
Yeah,
can't really
like, how do
buy
I
it.
get oh, yeah, how do I purchase that? No Amazon at that time. So but yeah, it led me to read Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki, and then studying Chicago Zen Center. Anyway, so that whole energy got me into this Eastern life and well-being life and yoga life. And then my ex-partner, and we moved to Portland, Oregon. We just wanted to explore the West Coast. And so Portland was just an incredible space to be in at that time. Nothing like Portland in the 90s. I will tell you that. Nothing.
Really? Okay.
I was fucking amazing, man.
What?
And
Why? What was amazing about it?
the artistic community, the sort of weirdness of Portland that always has been there, but it was just so visceral back then. It was not as developed as it was. It was just a bunch of cool kids hanging out, creating, breaking the rules, being rebellious. It was a little hub of just beauty. And it was
Mm,
connected to an incredibly beautiful environment. So I
mm,
had this mix of like all the things that I've shared with you so far was all in that space in Portland because it was like the beauty of nature. It was like I was working in a massage school at the time and I was running a bookstore, the bookstore part of the massage school. And it was just like I'm learning all of these things.
wow.
One of those things that I learned was Chinese medicine. And I fell in love with it because it was connected to my dad, because my dad was a physician. I was just like, I want
Mm,
to learn how to be a Chinese medicine doctor because it sort of integrated all of these things. So one of the guys that sort of gave me the
but
intro,
would that be like herbs and acupuncture?
yeah, herbs, acupuncture, but it was also Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong and yeah, all of the different, there's like five real components to Chinese medicine. And it was just at the beginning stages of becoming mainstream, more or less in
Mm-hmm.
the West. And I was looking for schools to go to. And at the time, I was under financial restraints. I was just working in coffee shops and stuff. They didn't have financial aid for this. So I found one school in Southern California University of Health Sciences, that actually provided some financial aid for me to be able to attend. So
Uh-huh.
my partner and I moved to LA for that reason
Copy
alone.
that.
And then I started doing it, but then I just realized I didn't really vibe with the clinical side of it, but I just love the philosophical engagement of Chinese medicine. But that's how I got to LA.
And how long ago was that?
Geez, 2001, I think. Yeah, 2001.
20,
So
24,
24
25
years
years.
ago, man.
So like
That's
halfway through.
halfway through.
So you're
Yep.
in mid 20s.
Yep. Halfway through. It was so much fun. I was working at a coffee shop and studying Chinese medicine, and then out of that came the sort of surfing and all of that, and that just was living the LA life. It was fun.
But let me thanks for sharing all that, man. I appreciate that. First, I just want to share what I'm a reflection is, God damn, I would love to have your soul serve coffee. Like I would want to walk in. And if every barista was like had your perspective on that, the world
Yeah.
would be an incredible place. I mean, and I know that there are baristas who feel that way. I'm sure you're not the only one. But that's like the soul who's doing the work. Just think about how many souls you affected. And
Yes.
just so we could jump ahead for a moment, let me test this theory if this is correct. I bet like your viewpoint of like I'm not just serving coffee. I'm not just producing a podcast. I'm not just producing a movie. I'm not just working for this art. Like I'm looking at that work through this lens.
Mm. Yeah.
So what is the meaning of the work that you're doing on telepathy tapes?
I mean, that's sort of my definition of life. It's just like creating conditions of magic.
Mm,
And so that
nice.
when I'll give you an example and then I'll bleed into how
Yeah, yeah.
the tapes came into the picture. But when I was in Portland, I was watching TV one day on the Oxygen channel, and there was this yoga teacher there, Steve Ross. And I just loved the way he was doing yoga. And I was like, I'm going to try this. And I started doing that for like 2 years on TV every morning. I loved it. It was
Wow.
amazing. That's literally how I started practicing yoga. Now I had visions of yoga poses and all that when I was a kid, and I didn't know what the fuck those were, but I knew I was naturally drawn. So that was like a weird
You
sort.
you remembered. So when you started doing yoga, you remembered. Wait, this is familiar. I had this
Yeah.
vision. Oh my god.
Yes. Yes. So I knew there was a call to yoga, in which I still practice every single day. And I was like, I love this. So when I went to LA and I started like working coffee shops and stuff like that while I was studying Chinese medicine, I ended up at a cafe in Brentwood, managing the cafe. And it was great. It was a kind of high end place. You would see all the big people come in there, one of the people that walked in one day was Steve Ross.
Ooh.
And it just happened that his studio was above this cafe.
Oh my
Had
god.
no idea. No idea. And I met Steve and took classes, and it was like, this is fucking crazy. So that I mean, from meeting my partner to everything that I've done, even whitewash, all happened based
Meeting
on
your partner too.
same kind of serendipity, same kind of bizarreness. And so bringing you to the telepathy tapes piece, um, so I have a really amazing colleague that I work with. I do some work with an organization as well called Medicinal Media. I'm an executive
Mhm.
producer for them. We create content for mental health for young people. It's a wonderful, wonderful space. Um, I was listening to the telepathy tapes through my network of friends, and I was like, holy fucking bizarros. This is bananas. Like, the podcast was just incredible through and through. And I was so in awe because, again, now that you know my story, you understand I've been studying consciousness for a very long time. And for these non speaking autistic kids to
Mhm.
be able to communicate their parents' thoughts on levels that we're still sort of trying to understand, and to document that through a podcast was just, for me, like, wow.
Mhm.
So I was sharing this with one of my colleagues, and he was like, this is amazing. And then he connected to a friend of a friend who he hasn't spoken to in a while. And he was like, I think there's someone that she's working on the film version of this
Ah.
project. And he connected me to her. And this was all via Zoom. And when I hit the button to bring the Zoom up, and I saw not her name is Jess, and I saw nothing but the most beautiful, blissful, happy human. And I was just like, oh my God, it was like my sister or something come back to life. It was like unbelievable.
Wow.
And I was just,
Wow.
wow. And then I just shared my interests and all of that. And she was just like, we got to move this forward with you coming on board. And part of the opportunity was like, let's try to raise the rest of the money. I pitched this to one of my favorite donors. Within 2 weeks, it was done. And I
I see.
can't,
So you're EPing the feature film.
yep, the
Copy
documentary.
that.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And it's
Okay, I
been
was in.
nothing but short of insane, incredible, amazing on
Is
every
that
level.
out yet? Is
No,
that
no, it comes out. I think the projection is next year, springtime is what we're projecting, but they're wrapping up filming, I think, soon. And it's I think it's going to be revolutionary. I mean, what Kai Dickens and that team has done, and those parents and those families, um, I think it has the potential to really shift the understanding and narrative of what we know about consciousness on multiple levels.
I mean, there are so many uh interesting Venn diagrams you and I have. So for one, I'm just gonna make you laugh right now. And for those who are
Yeah.
just listening, they can't see this, but I'm gonna show you an image right now. And I'm gonna set up the image for you. I live in Uruguay right now. I just moved here. I moved to a place
Wow.
where I don't know anybody. So I know my image right now is a little bit dark because it's rainy here, and
Yeah.
I'm dressed up cold because for me it's winter right now. Like winter just started.
Yes.
Um, but it's a long story short. For a lot of my life, I was looking for home. I'm driving in Uruguay. I'd never been here before. It's fucking far from everything.
Hmm.
I have this week where a lot of synchronicities happen. And I'm like, all right, this feels right. And I'm in the car. I've been Uruguay. I don't know anybody. However, it turns out I have a cousin who lives in Montevideo, the capital.
Mm.
And I'm driving down Montevideo with her. And she's like, Topaz, how do you feel? Like you've been here for 5 days. You're seems like you're considering moving your whole family here. No one's been, you don't know anybody about me. You just met me last week. Like,
Yes.
what, how do you feel? I said, well, there've been a lot of signs that seem like it's the right move, but I'm eating a lot. I notice I'm eating a lot, so I must be repressing some emotional like
Mm.
discomfort and anxiety. And I get to the light, Kat. I get to the light, and I look up. Now are you ready for this? I want to
Yes.
show this to you.
Can't
Ready?
wait. I'm stoked, dude. Let's see if I can see. Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
It says it's a sign of a store that says Topaz
Oh,
Home.
Jesus.
I mean, that's like the universe. That's like talking to a schmuck. It's like you just in case you don't get it, I'm gonna make it so obvious.
Dude,
It's like
dude. Right? Oh my gosh.
I mean, like it's like, and I followed signs that are way more random. Like, yo, I was thinking this and I saw red and I followed it. So my friends
Yeah.
are like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, in my early 20s, I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, all right, get on that. I mean, literally, I was searching the flow when I went. And like that's like the most blatant. And I just turned 49. I'm like I'm entered 50 year too, and
Yeah.
it's like Topaz, boom. So I think I just want to share with you that that's like a Venn diagram crossover.
Yeah,
You know,
man. Yes, it's incredible. And it it's kind of like I think Louis Armstrong said this, like, if you have to ask what jazz is, you'll never know. And
mm,
kind of we're living that in many regards, like, I don't understand this, I don't know, and you're drawn
mm,
to it. But then when you have that direct experience, it's like, oh, okay. Because I feel like life in many regards is like that. It's just like no one really fucking knows, man. I mean, that's the bottom line here. Okay. I mean, that's my end. I mean, I
yeah,
learned it from a lot of different experiences, mostly from who I consider my greatest mentor, who happened to be my wife's great aunt. Her name was Evelyn Volsilla. She lived to almost 105 2 weeks before. Every time I would meet with her, which was quite a lot, I actually put out a book about her and everything, but um, she would say, nobody knows. And this sort of like the bottom line, the acceptance of it all, of not knowing is to know. And that was her, to me, the greatest teaching that I take with me through it all, of just
mm,
like not knowing. Get out of that sort of, because what happens is, and what I've always seen with her, people that I think get to this point, is you lighten up. It frees you from the traps of attachments and aversions. It's like, lighten up, you know,
mm,
lighten up. And that's hard when you see all the different
yeah,
sufferings in the world, what's happening in Gaza and what's happening with war and all that. It's hard because you need to be involved with those things. But when you get into the philosophical footprint of existence, it's like nobody knows, but you help others, you stay engaged, and it just lightens the load. It's done wonders for me. Better than any meditation, better than any yoga practice, better than any ayahuasca experience you can think of, is to come to the understanding that nobody knows. And so back to jazz,
yeah,
nobody knows why jazz affects you the way it does, but it lightens you
mm,
up.
mm. And it's like the more you try to understand it, the less you do.
Unless you do, everything's, it's all happening, man. And you're here.
Mm-hmm.
There's nowhere to go. You heaven is earth. You're in space. Right now we're in space. It's moving thousands of miles per hour, you know. It's the sun is happening.
Yeah.
Is an end in sight. Lighten up.
On that note, what keeps you up at night? If anything keeps you up, what keeps you up at night?
Mm,
Like the opposite of that. Knowing
yeah.
that, but what's.
I think the what keeps me up more than anything else is the uncertainty for my son.
Yeah.
That makes me always wonder more than anything else of just like what kind of world is he going to have to deal with. And as you know, as a dad, it's so instinctual to protect. And I can't think of too much. I'm only about like, how do I protect my son?
Yeah.
But because of the experience I had in the hospital with him and my partner, I think about all sons and daughters of all sorts because so most of my work now, most of my energy goes to what can I do to support next gen? Um, I've, you've talked about my whole life essentially so far, and I'm very content with everything as it is. I mean, I hope to live a long, happy life, but at the same time, it's just like what's most important is protecting the environment, the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the earth, protecting the oceans, the soil, the air, and all of the children that have to live within this existence. I think that's most important over everything. So that keeps me up like, what the fuck can I do,
Yeah.
every day? How can I be a better dad? You know,
Mm.
what the experiences that I shared, because, you're kind of looking through your child's eyes when he faces things that you are facing. So like being bullied, he's like me, and, what can I do to protect him? I put him in martial arts already
Yeah.
because I had that experience. And I'm like, but what if he hates it? Is there an it's like this stretch of, thought and imagination, which is an evolutionary sort of protection, survival mechanism for you to be able to protect your young.
Yeah.
And so I continually do that. And then you got AI, you got to know AI is going to be smarter than any human soon. It's just what it is. And you can battle that. You can take a religious path and go all the way to the top if you want. The bottom line is that it's here. How can your kids work
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah.
So that's what I
I
think of.
mean, well, can we riff on that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no doubt.
Right now in my life, I ask the two questions I think about pretty much only, or like that I'm primarily focused on are how can I apply this beautiful format of the and, which is two people talking, filming them, seeing the space between, to more subjects about the human experience. The other thing I think about is how do I prepare my children for a future I have no idea what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I also got my son into jujitsu. That's like I got 5 things. My current vantage point is like jujitsu, resilience, financial literacy, code switching, and then the last one, the most recent one, which was like probably the most important, was joy. I was like so focused on the first 4, I forgot like, fuck, man, in my pursuit of teaching him 4,
Yeah.
I'm keeping it so serious, talking about being light, nobody knows. I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm gonna teach this kid joy.
Yeah. It's,
What's the whole point? Like,
yeah.
so I kind of see it like on a canyon, sediments on a canyon. It's like, oh, okay, that was a year of, I don't know, the ice age. And then here was like, oh, there was a drought there. You could like see what happened over the years looking into
Yeah.
canyon base, right?
Yes. Love that. By the way.
So I think about my kid. I'm like, okay, I got about 20, 23 years of like laying sediment till he's like peace out, Pop. I'm on. I'm on my own. I've been
Yeah.
18, so I'm like, okay, what are the, there's a lot of layers. There's some thin layers. There's like the basic layer of like how I'm being. How does he
Mhm.
see me treat his mom, my wife, how his daughter, what is the environments I put him in? But then there's some big sediments. And I have right now 3 big sediments that I see. The
Mm.
first one is going to happen now in January. I'm taking him for about 6 weeks to India,
Oof.
both of them. So there's a school there called Brighter Minds. They basically train children to see with their third eye,
Mm.
basically. Trust their
Mm.
intuition. It could also be telepathy. That's why I'm saying it might be an overlap with telepathy. But in telepathy tapes, but in essence, what they do is, and the way when I say videos, like the way they'll show it off is they'll blindfold a child. And I mean like really blindfold a kid. The kid can't see anything.
Yes.
And then give them a Rubik's Cube that they haven't seen. And then the kid does a Rubik's Cube.
Mm.
So I want to take my kid there. Not that he's got to become a Jedi. I'm not interested in like my kid like a Jedi, which would be cool, but
Yeah.
that's not the point. Like I'm not
That's not
interested in the
right.
result. I'm
Yes.
interested in the focus. This is the first sediment. The first sediment is first, I want him to know, I want them to feel like a minority. I want them to be surrounded by like, darker skin tones and to know
Yes.
what it's like to be like the blonde white kid and be the inverse minority.
Yep.
I think also I want them to know, like, man, the world is not what it seems like. Like there is the third eye, there is intuition, there's value there. The second part of the sediment when my children are like 11, 12 is to go spend 1-2 years in the Maori community in New Zealand because I want them to learn the cosmology of how the Maori cosmology and how they communicate and engage with nature,
Yes.
and also their connection to anger. I think they have a very healthy connection to anger and use of anger that we don't quite have in the West. Now
Yes.
let's talk about Western art. Now let's talk about economy or whatnot. Like,
Exactly.
right?
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's, first of all, kudos to you for your fatherhood sort of principles of practice and, stepping into these like um, relative uncomfortable sort of paths for the potential comfort for your kids' future. And I think part of what makes a great dad is this sort of um, courage to step in those spaces and provide them with unique experiences that allow them to see and to understand and to have experiences. And I always liken parenthood to sort of creating magical memories for your children to bounce off of, because you have an experience and then you move on to the next moments or future times, and you are only kind of referencing things to help you navigate whatever's in front of you a lot of the times, right? Um, and if those are mostly good, there will be trauma, there will be challenges. But if you provide enough of those resources, it's incredible what can shape them, and all due to your parenthood. And it's in a beautiful, grateful thing that you're doing. So thank you for sharing that. And I think um, just to rewind a little bit, even before the telepathy tapes came into an opportunity that I can share with another, it's just an incredible team overall. But I met with a Vedic astrologer in Nepal virtually. This was last October, I believe. And during this session, he predicted so many things over the next year, including the week that I got the telepathy tapes opportunity. He said that this was going to happen. I have it all recorded.
Wow.
And so, which was even, again, that layered thing.
James
um,
Webb stars. Come on. It's like,
it's unbelievable, man. It's like that's why it's even more profound, because that was telepathy on telepathy.
right.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it's just an unbelievable experience. And I think we're just at the beginning stages of exploring consciousness in ways that we never thought were possible. And I think there's going to be so much resistance to it, because the uncertainty of a invisible sort of space pushing the limits of science, you know, opening up, the quantum world even more and trying to dance between what we can measure and what we can't. And a new paradigm of thinking or understanding is, kind of frustrating for modern mankind. But I think AI is pushing consciousness to expand. I feel it and I know it through my network and beyond that we're starting to tap into areas of consciousness that we could imagine. Our DNA is like, it's like the script, but consciousness is more like Coltrane or the actor or the director or the witness. It's like there's so many experiences beyond what can happen within the framework of that DNA. And so I love that about life. That's what gets me up in the morning is just the possibilities of moving beyond in consciousness. And you want to talk about safety? There's nothing more safe than knowing that
Mm.
consciousness is continual. Conscious,
Wait. There's nothing more safe than knowing that consciousness is continual.
yeah, it's like it's beautiful. It's beautiful to know that consciousness is there. Like it's like what you were saying about looking for home. It's like you can go, like you're in your house, you can go travel the world. You're like, wow, God damn it. I went to India, it was amazing. I went to Brazil, it was unbelievable. I saw this called blah, blah, blah. And it's amazing. But then when you get back home and you know that beautiful space you're in with that you've been a part of creating that comfort, it's like, wow, this is home base. This is where so that's what consciousness is to me. It's like you can have all these different experiences and it's important to do that. You got to seek, you got to travel your mind, you got to have failures, you got to have all these different things, you got to expand, you got to do all of these different things. But at the end of the day, all we're doing is like waves going back to the ocean. You're just coming back home. And I think Ram Dass said it best, who's another one of my major heroes, who said, we're all just walking each other home.
Yeah.
We're just walking each other home. It's beautiful, man. It's just beautiful.
Well, what do you think life has designed you for? And what have you seen or experienced that makes you think that?
The reflections that I've gotten from humans, plants, and animals in my time so far on this earth have all been centered around this sense of uh, helping others feel better, helping others feel good. I have an innate quality that continually deepens of I know my heart, I know the sensitivities of my being, I know what strikes me, but inside of me, this the shell that's moving and changing, but it feels fixed a lot of the times it's not, is to give to help people feel better and feel good. The mechanisms for that are through storytelling, writing, the arts, coffee shops. It's these vessels of being able to do that. And I think that's what my gifts are, is to give that away. And the most important person to give it to is myself.
Do you do that?
I do. I do. So that is kind of the later stages of my life. I didn't do that early on. I was a major people pleaser, major um, yes man in the wrong sense. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I've been incredibly afraid of making mistakes. I had tough times being the skin color that I am in this country and how to sort of make that work. I've had difficulty with family and friends of, a different path than what they have taken. Um, and it's taken a long time to get to a point where you say, Air, I love you. You know, Air, I love you. And when you get to that point, that is when everything sort of blossoms and you can give your love. So that's the process I'm in now. When that happened for me is when my child showed up.
Wait,
So,
wait, wait. Tell me, double click on
so
that,
that
please.
process of like learning to love myself just as I am, saying I love you, and not only doing that, but really saying that to my partner, to my wife. When I really said, you are already beautiful, enlightened. You've already won the battles of life. I said this to my wife like weeks before our child was conceived.
Conceived.
And yes, weeks before, and it was like there was a there's a vulnerability. And there's nothing more powerful right now in life than to be purely vulnerable, purely honest about your existence. And that's where love sort of rests, is in that vulnerability, because that's what people have fabricated. The mimicry right now of social media, even AI, is this sort of like you haven't you haven't been vulnerable with each other as humans or with plants or with animals. You just haven't been vulnerable. So I'm going to show you what pretending means.
You're saying that's what social media is saying. That's what AI is saying. That's
Yeah.
what our content is
Limit.
saying.
That's what we're saying. We couldn't do this. Otherwise, why would we need any of that? It's like if we were experiencing that level of love and courage and beauty,
But
that's.
I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's super big. But how come there's not more vulnerability and real authenticity online or in the
Because
content?
in my opinion, the reason why
Yeah,
that's the case is because to be vulnerable, you have to have courage.
right.
The mimicry, you don't. You can hide your
Mm-hmm.
fears and you can pretend to be something other than you are. And I'll liken that to an experience in my earlier life that I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about previously. See, I wanted that courage to be myself as a Black man in this country. I wanted to be just me as I am. I didn't have the courage at the time. So I tapped into characters, theater. That's how I discovered how can I be honest with myself and be accepted and loved, right? We're all in a theater right now, pretending, fake news, fake this, fake. We're just pretending. We don't have the courage to be vulnerable. How do you do that? You have to look at yourself directly. There's 1,000 practices that can help you with this or do that, but you can't look at the screen. The screen is within. Okay. All of your likes and dislikes and content, that's all within. But you don't want to look at yourself directly. You want to be validated by something else. So that will continue to grow. It's grown into AI because you asked it to. And that will just keep going until you're replaced
Mm.
because you're not needed
Mm.
anymore. The
Woo!
way back, the way back to life and happiness, as I noted earlier, inside, is to simply turn around and look at the screens within.
So thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. That is beautiful. I'm going to play back what pops for me is that I do think that AI coming in is going to bring up a mirror
Hmm.
that puts the onus on us to really to be more human.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
some of us might go and use it and also with the power of the content getting so much more powerful to numb us, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
you can easily fall into that tide pool and get washed up and getting numbed out and being distracted. But the other thing that I can do is like say, okay, you don't need to do all this work anymore because we got it. Like we're doing
Mhm.
it. So what's
Yeah.
left for you to do? You could either go
Yeah.
into the tide pool or you can go, well, what am I, what is really my function? Who am I really serving? And now the onus for those who choose to face that onus is like, well, what am I about?
Yes.
For whom am I about? For whom am I serving?
Yes.
My son, there's all this emphasis on like why. When my son first came about, he didn't ask why. His first question at 18 months, 2.5 was like, what for?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
for? And I think we're confusing why for what, like what for suggests like a purpose to serve.
So true, bro.
I want to write a post about it. It's like, he was like, and I found it so interesting. Like, what for? Why is that? What for is that sign? Not why is that sign? What for?
Mhm.
And it's like switching the lens is like service, purpose to what, like for not,
Totally, dude. I can't even emphasize how vital what you just shared is. I mean, what that really speaks to. I mean, I think that is 100% it. And I'm very pro AI, just to make
mm-hmm.
that clear. I think the technology is absolutely fascinating, and I think it can do wonders to serve humanity. But it ultimately comes down to us again. Like, I think it is pushing us to deepen our sense of connection. To your point, like, yes, AI will be doing a lot for us, but what happens when you don't have a job? Or what happens when, there's still a level of poverty that's out there or a level of disease? Like, what are we doing? To go back to the original piece here, it's not about my child in the hospital. It's about the other children
Yeah.
too.
Whew.
Compassion, pure compassion. So that's AI take us so far and it will, but ultimately, if we're not working to serve the earth and serve others, including plants and animals, I I don't think we can do this. So that's what we should be teaching our kids, you know.
Like I agree. I'm gonna spin it in another positive way,
Yeah.
slightly, which
Yeah,
is
please.
instead of like lose a job, it's like, all right, what happens when you finish your job in an hour versus 8? What are you gonna do
Yeah.
with the other 7 hours of your time?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna go play video games, you're gonna watch movies, you're gonna do social media, or what are you gonna do with that extra 7 hours now?
Yes,
Then it
exactly.
becomes like, all right, are you just taking care of yourself? Are you thinking about others? What are you doing with your extra time? There's where a little bit more responsibility of saying, hey, what are you doing with that? And
Yes.
and
As I noted a little bit earlier, those practices, the irony is none of them work. So if that's one takeaway, I mean, I do this stuff I've done this stuff for a long time. Um, what works is being present for your child or your children. And that's what works. So create those spaces, create those
right.
memories. That is yoga. That is meditation. The rest are just a bunch of fucking weird poses, man. I'm here to tell you.
Amazing. Amazing.
It's true, man. It's true.
Amazing.
It's true. So
Man.
weird poses, weird chants, weird everything. That's fine. It's fine to be weird. I'm the most pro
Right.
weirdo of all time, but
Yeah.
have your cup of coffee in the morning, take care of your kids,
Mm.
serve the earth,
Serve the
pay your
earth.
bills.
I love, and I want to acknowledge you too. Like, I love how you're saying beings, plants, animals. You've taken like the thing and flipped the inside out when you said like they don't work.
Hmm.
And it's like it's the acceptance and the loving of they don't work.
Hmm.
And like for me, it's like where the crack in the bell and it,
Yes,
like the light. It's like actually the crack is the bell,
you
and the
got it.
bell is the crack. Like it becomes a
Yeah.
smaller. Like that thought, is a gift that you've offered me into my expansion of thinking that I haven't realized before. So thank you for
Dude,
that.
thank you. I mean, this isn't me. These are
Yeah.
the great ones. It's why I fell in love with Leonard Cohen, because he was one of the first that brought that insight to me. Same thing with my great aunt. Even in Zen and all of those practices, you start to understand the scratches on the vinyl rather than
Mm,
listening to the perfect album. And it's on repeat over and over again. I mean, I practice Ashtanga yoga. It's the same poses every single time. The same thing. Same thing. It's like none of it. Perfecting the poses is the least part of the practice. It's more about what's up here, man. Every day, being
mm,
able to sit with pain in the hospital room with those kids and Gaza and Sudan and Iran and all of these things. You have to sit with it and offer compassion and get closer and closer to doing, using your voice, everything to help. The further you're away, don't sit in the back seat. Don't sit in the back seat. That's the key. So,
mm.
yeah. And there
Man,
we are.
there we are. Nobody knows. And with that, like, no,
Nobody knows.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, thank you.
Your
Air,
gift.
dude, you're a gift. But I like Airrion. I mean, I love the name Airrion.
Oh,
Airrion?
thank you. Yeah, Arian is I'm the full.
Airrion.
Yeah. Choose your poison, you know.
My man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Topaz. You're a real gem.
I want to thank you for joining me in this conversation. I hope it had some utility. I hope it offered a reflection of what maybe life is shaping you for, and maybe it offered a missing piece to the puzzle of your life. It was a pleasure for me, and I appreciate your time and attention. Please subscribe to our channel so that you can stay abreast of all the new episodes we have coming out. And until next time, thank you so much. Guts is a Skin Deep media production. The show is produced by Gonzalo Torres Ocampo, edited by Sofia Riqueri, with editorial support from Anthony Cabral, and executive produced by me, Topaz Adizes. Special thanks to all the guests who showed guts, without whom there will be no getting under the skin. Interested in joining our community and following this journey? Visit guts.podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and theskindeep.com for in-depth conversation card games that create the space for connection, intimacy, and deeper conversation. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, keep having the guts to get under the skin.